Hopefully, we're starting off on Romanticide for game 1, and the top left for Team DPG, he is Dark.
And spawning over in the bottom right-hand side of Romanticide, representing Kaiser Gaming, it is time.
I was really surprised that Fear Dragon went with the Price is Right rules. Thought that hurt him.
You know, I'm not surprised by anything Ravi says these days, you know. He comes out with a lot of weird things, you know. At one point, he was like, oh, NA is better than EU, you know. So Ravi is a little bit crazy now and then. Romanticide to start things off between these two. I like this one, because this usually can go all the way and go the long games. You know, it's very rarely a short game, given that 3-base setup is very nice and gets you into the game and really gets these players to have a feel out of one another and see where they stand.
I mean, it's going to be, if it is a longer game, then there's actually a couple of games that we can look back in a history for on this map, because it's been in the map pool for a little while. So while Dark was having maybe not the best GSL performances last year, he was playing some pretty serious online cups. And one of the game was versus Time on this map, and it was like one of those games that was like 40 minutes long, and it was like 10 supply to 12. It was actually really sick. Came down to a fungal versus a snipe. So I always think about that when I'm like the possibility of a longer game. That's when I first also really started to respect Time and his late game play. It just felt like since that time, yeah, there you go. Since that moment, Time has been able to get to some late games, but then ultimately he really does crash and burn compared to Dark.
You're filling in that time quota, Zombie Grub. I like it. I like it. So Time here is scouting with an SC2. This is the one that finishes the barracks, just to make sure that his opponent is not up to no good. Now the Reaper can get out there across the map in the very, very standard Marine full-up afterwards. I'm curious about which third Dark is going to take. Like a lot of the Europeans went for the very forward third, get the creep spread out, because that middle section of the map, the bigger tunnel down the middle, does become a bit of a battleground for pushing creep back and such. But yeah, that's one thing right now that I'm kind of questioning. And Dark actually goes for the more defensive one. Yeah. Curious.
I do feel like it is maybe a bit of a European versus Korean thing. But that does mean, yeah, a little bit of less creep spread over those really problematic rocks. Some decent Reaper micro coming in here, but Dark took it seriously, built quite a few Lings. We have Time going for a similar opener to his first game versus Scarlet, which is a 3cc opener, and if it is the exact same one, it's going to be into just the Viking Liberator combo at a starport.
Yeah, I know Clem for a while really loved the 2 racks follow-up after this, just because creep spread in the middle is so... and that is what Time is going to go for this game. It's like the creep battle in the middle of this map really does become super prevalent. And seeing this third base as well, it's going to be even harder for Dark to get it over there. But, I mean, Dark is so good. I'm not going to question anything he does, honestly.
Yeah, Dark, do whatever you want. I think we'll follow along. Time, though. I think Time to needs to do a little bit more pressure and going for this build. But perhaps with some additions, we're seeing some Hellions added on. That's usually just a safety. It can help out later, though. Yeah, we'll see if he can actually stop the flow of Dark's macro.
I am a little bit like, he went for 6 Lings as an opening. Yeah. And I wonder if that was just to be ultra safe, just being like, you know, given that this might not be necessarily on his home server, just making sure that Reaper doesn't get away with anything too much. And that's a pretty darn fast lair, Zombie Grub. Like, I know a lot of Zergs can go for this, where they get a very quick lair, be it for Spire Tech or that very fast Baneling speed, but Dark is also one of those players that can super mix it up with his army composition. I know he's a big fan of roaches and stuff, but not necessarily for those all-in plays.
It is Korea, by the way. Just double-checking. So Dark should be feeling very comfortable. If the starport now on the way for Time, Dark has seen the front of Time's base. So he's seen the lack of supply depots, pointing towards the 3rd CC, seen the amount of Hellions that have or have not made their way out. So it really is just these 2 on the front lines, and 2 more should be joining up soon. There they are, actually. But that's, that's it. So you can kind of start piecing things together. With that in mind, yeah, what is Dark's intentions with this faster lair? Just to start that cervical hooks as fast as possible. Oh, that's a pretty good scout.
Knows everything that's going on now, and he did throw down quite a lot of gases, did Dark, meaning that it's most likely going to be Speedbane into possibly Muda. He's actually a very difficult Zerg to approach, and it is that very quick Spire here. So for going upgrades for now, but that's not necessarily a bad move. A very fast armory on the way for Time. I feel that of these build orders, I feel this works out pretty well for Dark, because he will have Banelings ready for this kind of push that inevitably is going to come here. I'm just wondering if it's going to be like a fast second factory follow-up for those Widowmine drops to get out.
I figure it's got to be. I did, kind of think about this, and I was like, oh, maybe something a bit more with these, the opener, the 2-1-1 can be flexible. You can add in a little bit of like a Hellbat push, but it's not going to be very many Hellbats. It's going to be more about the Drilling Claws coming out very, very quickly afterwards, the second factory coming down. That's going to be quickly pumping out 3 at a time. Upgrades are finally going to be on the way for Time, as well as Dark finishes up some Banelings. He's going to need to defend this first and foremost, and that might be a little tricky. Maybe the Hellbat's something he didn't expect necessarily, but with Banelings actually being accessible, I don't think he'll have too much of a hard time. Already losing the creep, that is a lot of queens on the high ground, and Time's not even ready to tango with those.
I tell you what, though, this creep denial here over in the central bit of the map, that was actually really good. And even if he just got that done, he's playing pretty greedy behind it all, getting up the engineering base very fast. He is onto Drilling Claws already, well on the way. Just a little bit of just containing his Zerg opponent, and no fourth base on the way, obviously, for the Zerg. I mean, the Mutas might surprise him, but right now, I don't think Time's going to be feeling too bad about this.
Certainly controlling the map, but the Mutas might make a change in that, not just because they can chase down these medevacs to help with some Lings, but also going to be a bit better at applying some pressure on Time's side of the map, and an investment into the upgrade comes down too. 1-1's going to be a bit behind Time, yes, but not significantly. And we got ourselves a fairly good old-fashioned mid-game TVZ.
And Macro Hatch going down for Dark. That's something that he tends to do more than other Zergs. The Widowmine drops will commence. Now, Time still has no idea necessarily what he's up against here, which tech choice. Those are some cool-looking Mutas, by the way. And he's sending out drops here, there, and everywhere. This one, like ships in the night here, going to be sailing past one another, and I don't know who I like that better for, actually. I think I like this better for Time.
It's actually very, Time is reading this quite correctly. He does already have missile turrets now finished, even. So the fact that his Widowmines were able to escape the bot by the Mutas, now his bases back at home are properly defended. He can focus on the micro, whereas Dark might be distracted with the Muta micro, as well as dealing with the pressure. Here comes the Widowmine drop, boosting over that natural. Absolutely nothing there to defend it. The Drilling Claws already making it so good. And on top of that, Dark hasn't even noticed. Now pulling the queens in. Oh, Time, a little bit of missed micro. Could have gotten some more there. He's still going to get some more.
Oh, I could have maybe retargeted onto the drone there, but that one gets quite a bit. 17 drones do go down for the 4 SCVs. Dark's actually quite a bit behind in the drone count. I know that will change pretty soon, given that he just pumped out quite a few, but definitely not the start that he wanted at all when it comes to this CVT. And that Widowmine. Oh, that could have been juicy.
17 drones. Yeah, definitely not bad position for Time. Who's already adding on his 4th command center, Thor, a lot more barracks. I mean, I could easily see this going into 20 minutes, but one that is going to be Time being maybe a little bit more comfortable. Dark is investing into 9 more Mutas, total of 16, with +1 having been finished. That does start to get a little scary when they're able to get across the map, so Time got to play kind of the, not footsie exactly, but trying to apply some pressure while also making sure to stay healthy at home, but don't let Dark just kind of get away with expanding or teching up severely, and that's actually been something that Time's been good at so far. Dark has really not had the most amazing economy.
No, definitely not. Dark is distracted by this drop at the top, and he's going to kill the 5th base attempt by Dark here. So I think Time's been really good. What is the resources lost? How about right now? Pretty good trades on both sides. I mean, the 17 drones looks pretty bad, but for 7 Widowmines, 2 medevacs and such, I think Dark's surviving the scary part of the game now, and soon he can start using those Mutalisks aggressively as opposed to defensively.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when it does sometimes happen, the 17 drones, then the push, and the lost 5th base, and we saw how that can actually spiral out of control, you're maybe a little concerned. But now that that's over, he's back up to almost 80 drones. He's going to add on his own technology. Like I say, fair game. Ooh. Time is going to defend these Mutas so with the help of Missile Turret, but not his engineering base. That's actually a bit of an issue. +2 armor is going to go down. Of course, Dark can't tell which upgrade he's firing at and would have preferred the weapons, but still a pretty nice snipe as long as he doesn't lose too many Mutas on the retreat. Actually trying to get cornered here. Many of them are weak, and some of them do get shot down.
Very good trap by Time there, taking out 5 Mutalisks for his troubles, and losing your +2 armor definitely hurts, but it's a trade I'd almost take any day of the week for 5 Mutas, just to slow down Dark. And Dark, he's actually being super aggressive here. This is a lot of Lings to deal with, but Time, he's got enough of an army back at home, I think, if he borrows these Widowmines, but and he has that force at the top as well, moving over. What does Dark have to defend?
some Banelings, but there's a split here. There's actually so many more Banelings left over. Never mind, that's not going to be anything. Dark is totally fine. Continue pressuring on this side of the map. He can't really over-dedicate. He's not swimming in cash and gas right now, but he could definitely be a little aggressive on the map. It is always a concern, especially as Dark doesn't quite have creep spread over to the right side. Doesn't want to be bopped by a drop. It looks like Time is finally going to do some real multitasking. Army to the left, Army to the right, hoping to catch some creep spread, some bad splits from Dark. And he is trying to get back to his +2. Actually built another engineering bay, funnily enough, somewhere else. But these Marines, hey, the Banelings have moved out, and they're going to be able to snipe this hatchery. That's gone. I think he might lose the drop, but...
Yeah, he might lose it, but still, Time's actually handling all of this pretty well. And I mean, that, again, even sniping down the Mutalisk one by one, he knows they're not going to get away. Nice bit of crisis management, I suppose. And here, this is a huge army by Time, and he's already pre-split, and that is a lot of Ling Bane all from one direction. He is swarming around this army like Wano, but I think Dark is going to be able to clean this up, but not without significant losses.
I mean, that was just a thick army right there for Time. You know, like, yeah, it was a bit on creep. It was maybe a bit together, but it was Marauders and Thors, a lot of it. So the Banelings not exactly taking the most efficient trades. It was just the all-encompassing Zerg force, though, that is able to push that back, take a supply lead, and actually successfully push it back all the way. Time has to go back and lick his wounds, remax, wait for his upgrades, which aren't going to be 3-3. It's just 3. As Dark now can play around with some Hive technology. Hasn't done so yet. He's actually replacing the Mutas, but his Hive is done.
How many Mutas do we have on the field now? I think it's getting up to 21, 22. That's a scary number with +2 attack as well. Like, if those Mutas get into the main base or anything of Time, that's really going to put his aggression on halt here. One little droney boy wants to come with those Mutas, but...
Aww.
Yeah, I know. Just wants to be one of the boys, but in fact, 2 of the boys. Here we go, here we go.
They wanted to be Mutas, and instead they popped his drones. That's an unfair lava.
I like the fact that he's getting the Muta armor, by the way. That helps a lot against the Thors. I think it mitigates like 4 damage per hit from those Thor, or 1 damage but the 4 attacks of the Thor, so it's definitely helpful.
It's actually a real committal to Mutas. It actually is a bit surprising, thrown back to some previous eras of this matchup where we do actually start talking about Mutas as a fighting force, and if they really do kind of intend to have some fights, then the Carapace is usually what you would dedicate into. Attack is more for harassment, and he's even dedicating to the +3 flyer attack. These Mutas are absolutely no joke, even with a couple of Thors if they magic box correctly. But Time's army, also not a joke, especially as that +3 attack is inching closer. The creep is back, though. The Wood Mines aren't really that plentiful. I mean, Dark actually feels like he could be in the command here, but all it takes is losing track of the army one time for suddenly things to go awry.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really working out for Time. It's just this creep spread denial. I mean, he can kind of bounce from those peripheral bases pretty hard, but this Mutalisk count, again, is keeping back home a large chunk of forces, and Dark, if he wants to clean this up, which he won't, he's already deciding not to. He has to go off creep, which you really don't want to do in this position.
Yeah, that's, I mean, a bit unfortunate, but something I think Dark had to be, prepared to do. He really has very little vision on that right side. He's still trying to find some return damage, but so far not so good. Marine, Widowmine, Thors all being left back at home in good enough numbers that the, Muta player does have to be worried, especially if they don't quite catch where those Widowmines or how many Widowmines there are.
I tell you what, Time, despite being under quite a bit of pressure, these Mutas haven't really got anything done, right? In all these run-bys, he's had units in the right places, and you can see this blue horde just marching across the map, and while you don't really want to fight against Dark's army on creep, off creep, look at this pre-spread that he's got going.
He's going to get a little bit onto creep right now. Dark is pretty much maxed out. His +3 melee is not going to be involved in this fight, as it looks like Time is really pressing the issue. But finally, the Mutas are finding some damage. There's the Lane Bailing on top of the Bioarmy, at least forcing it to step back away from the hatchery, as Dark now goes pretty much all in on the planetary. I think it's going to be a goner, but the question is, can he hold back at home as well?
I think he might be able to do it here, you know. I know his supply is dwindling here, but look at his bank. I think he can reinforce like crazy here. I don't know how much lava he has available, but he has dealt with that far right base while cleaning this up as well, buying in quite a bit of space. That is nice moves by Dark. And I mean, they are definitely neck and neck at this point in time, but what does Time really do? What army does he go for against all of this?
Ooh, I was really worried about that. Just to save the Medivacs and the Thor.
Ooh.
Dark is going to be harassed a little bit by the Liberators, but that is a fresh base that doesn't have any drones, which Isn't exactly a good thing, but with his bank still being pretty good, it's all right. And he's also finishing up the +3 armor alongside Time. Time is once again pressuring to the top right as the Mutas clear out the middle, trying to make room for more creep spread if he's got the queens, which I'm not even sure he does. He's down to 1 queen. Dark might actually have some trouble soon.
That's an absolutely good point. He recognized it as soon as you did, and yeah, that larvae production, it's just not there whatsoever. If Time knew what we knew, then I'd say that he'd just stop gunning down the middle, because those reinforcements, they're not going to be coming out at the rate that Dark needs, and Dark knows that. He needs to buy time now for that little bit of an error there in losing so many queens.
Ooh, looks like Time is going to be able to cut him off, though. No run-bys, no pressure applied. Actually, well, no, there's a run-by. All the Mutas as well. Ling's getting into the natural. Looks like there's already too much army that has bypassed Time, so Time is forced to use reinforcements that don't look plentiful enough for me. There's a hidden Widow Mine, but Dark sees it. Now we got ourselves a little bit of a base-for-base scenario. Time, though, what happens in these situations is that he's pushed further on to creep, making it more vulnerable to any defensive Banelings, whereas Dark, perhaps, could camp the production. A Thor is going to pop, but Magic Box is pretty good.
It certainly is, and these are 3-1, soon to be 3-2 Mutas as well. I love the fact he's got these turrets and Widow Mines there hiding in the production. The Thor does not live, but takes down a few Mutas to save his life, and Dark, he's just being aggressive. He's actually down to a 3-base situation. I know he has that proxy hatchery in one of his bases, or macro hatches rather, but still, this is getting very chaotic.
This is really chaotic. And Time didn't really have to go on to creep to do a lot more economic damage. He kind of just like popped over to the 5th, which really wasn't going to be properly defended anyway. So Dark, back to his original 3 bases, is quickly running out of minerals. He actually uses a lot of them to go into 8 more Mutas. He's seeing success with them, while he also finishes off that +2 Carapace. Unfortunately for these Lings, Adrenal Glands wasn't quite done. It's actually only just started. So maybe there could have been more success with this chaotic trade. But as it is, Time had a lot of extra command centers that seem to actually still be floating over.
The supplies are so close, but I'm really liking Dark's position now. Like, Time, even with those orbitals and stuff, he lost a few, and trying to plant bases against all that burrow, and Dark's being a bit sneaky now. The upgrades are really coming online for Dark, it's got to be said, and he's just being fancy now, but he's still only on 3 bases, Zombie Grub, and even though he's got 70 drones, I don't know what the income tab looks like, but it might actually be better. Yeah, it's better for Time right now.
I actually feel like Dark is going to be the one that's in trouble. Like, his Mutas have to be used masterfully, which, you know, he's been very good with them, but, like, they are almost his lifeline. If he ever lets this army... Oh, the burrowed Banelings! Very nicely done. I was going to say, if he lets the entire army get to his side of the map, then it could be an issue. But after the burrowed Banelings, Dark's actually confident he's going to go in here. The Mutas get very low thanks to the Thor, but it was only 1 Thor. The Marines left over get surrounded by the Lings, and the reinforcements from Time might just be a little bit too late, or perhaps they'll be just enough. They still have medevacs on them. The upgrades are done for them. It's 3-3 Marines versus 3-2 Mutas with chance fuses as well. The supplies are crazy close, but this is actually coming down to Muta versus Marine, and we know how that usually goes.
Oh, we certainly do. We certainly do. Dark is doing everything he can to get this 4th base up, going for a 5th base at the top simultaneously. I love that move in Time. He's mining freely on his 4th, on his 5th. Granted, the SCV count's low, but it feels like he's kind of getting a hold of this game a little bit here. I think Time's actually playing really damn well.
Yeah, they both are. I actually did not expect Dark to play this particular style, just like the mass upgraded Muta is something, it feels like out of the heart of the swarm, but here we are in Legacy of the Void, and they are doing some significant damage, but Dark is once again losing economy. He's now down just the 1 base mining, so don't be really looking at the 68 drones, because about half of those are long distance.
The army that Time's accumulating here with so many Widow Mines is going to make it so difficult for these Mutas, and I do like what Dark's doing here by kind of trying to make Time go home. He's really forcing that, but Time, look how he's moving here. He's going to that space that he cleared in the top there with no creep whatsoever, and that's really been a crux for Dark in this entire game.
That's really concerning that Dark is now only mining off that base that has so little creep spread. Again, all the resources he manages to collect go right into Mutas. He's really going quite all in with them, and it just feels like inevitably 3-3 Marines with a couple of Thors to help out will beat any amount of Thors, or Mutas rather.
That's when you know it's a rough situation where you're having to long distance mine because you have like 40 drones on your one and only base. Like, the supplies are very deceiving because that is 60 drones that really can't mine anywhere whatsoever, it feels like.
Oh no, no. Oh, this actually could be such a powerful move. Plenty of Mutas getting taken down, even as Dark tries to replace them. In total, 36 Mutas have fallen, leaving us with 20 with very good upgrades. but they're also weak, and it feels like it's just going to take one mistake over a Widow Minefield, over a couple of Thors, for Dark to lose this game.
Yeah, I mean, Time, he is getting a bit battered himself on the economy. He's down to 29 workers, but he's the one still with the bases. And I gotta say, I love the fact that he's really committed to those turrets, really hard on that far right base, because that really is his bastion of hope in this game.
The Widow Mines planted down is a big issue. Like, Dark, where are his Overseers? He's got one, and I guess they're kind of trailing behind the Mutas, so not necessarily picking up on this as fast as possible. There you go. Widow Mines for a Muta is going to be something that Time's comfortable with right now as he marches down the middle of the map. That is where all the creep spread is, but there's really only 14 Banelings. That's not a comfortable amount for a 21-minute TVZ.
No, and he kind of brought them over here for this base as well, although I think he saved them, running them back, realizing there wasn't too many turrets for these Mutas to actually deal with.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. I love the fact that he set it up over there, because that's where his creep isn't. That's the last spot that you'd actually expect your opponent to do that kind of thing.
But it's like almost all his Banelings is why I was like, ooh, that's a big commitment. The Mutas are going to go after the Medivacs. Obviously, they're baiting him into the Widow, or the Banelings. The Banelings aren't going to be able to hit, though. The bait works. The Marines get taken out, and Dark once again evens up the supply.
Oh,
There's another one. Another 10 supply gone from Time as Dark manages to crawl his way back into this game. Not off economy, but based off of the units he has, which are now down to 22 Mutas and 7 Banelings. And I've got no idea what the Banelings are.
Me neither, Zombie Grub, but those...
He only detonated some of them.
Yeah,
wow.
That's perfect play. And he's going to pick off a few of the reinforcements here with these super-powered Mutas, and this game is crazy. I actually genuinely have no idea who's going to win at this point.
I don't know either. The Banelings not being involved in the play feels like it's going to be a problem, but then if Time does try to retreat, it's very possible he goes over the Banelings yet again. Widow Mine's getting some shots off, but now don't have the cooldown, so maybe the Mutas can jump on a lot of things. I have no idea how this is going to go. A couple of Banelings appear. They do help out the drone pool, as well as the Mutas magic box over the remainder of Time's army, leaving only the Thor left. And with a magic box, that's also a goner. Time forced to retreat with what he has, which is just Medivacs. He retreats back to a very poor economy on 22 SCVs, barely any mules, but he knows this game has been super scrappy. He's just not going to tap out yet.
No, he isn't. The Big Daddy Thor comes along, and that's a big shot, keeping this squad of Marines alive. 91 supply to 55, but again, so damn deceiving. What is the actual income tab for Dark at this point? Because he has no hatchery. Oh my. I mean, that's as low as it gets for both these players. I mean, Time still absolutely has a chance. He's the one that still has a few orbitals. That fourth base that he has on location, still mining. And I mean, that's a pretty hard one to crack as well with the 3 turrets there.
I mean, these are 3-2 Mutas, but the fear is that there's even a couple of Widow Mines in there, right? Oh, well, I guess you don't need to worry about the missile turrets or Widow Mines. If you can just power down the command center, the mass repair is going down, but it's not going to be saved. Even with the help of the Thor Micro, Dark takes down yet another command center. How many are left over? 2 orbitals. That is it.
This could actually get onto a situation where, you know, Time gets revealed in the game, which is kind of funny to say. Like, Dark, he is trying to rebuild this hatchery here. We see a few scans going down. It's like, okay, how much do you actually have? How much do you actually have? What do I have to work with here? Because maybe he was thinking, like, am I still in the game? Cyril would frown upon those scans for sure. But, yeah, Time... My goodness, what a cracker of a game to get these two going. But this Thor, it is massively on its own here. Not really many Marines trying to repair it as well. And the Thor does go down, and this is the one last place that Time has to worry about, and Dark has to worry about as well. But you got to say, tempo is on Dark's side here.
Yeah, that Thor is really important. I mean, as Time, I would have felt like, oh, he can't possibly jump on it just because there might have been Widow Mines, but Dark with the Eagle Eyes, as soon as he saw there was no Widow Mines helping, he was like, yeah, free Thor, thank you very much. 15 SCVs go down, at that time was really mining, and we are on our last battle, and it's not going to go well for Time. Dark, 24 minutes, almost like sub 100 supply for like 10 of them, it felt like. Dark takes game 1, but that was not easy.
If I just won that game, Zombie Group, I would not be looking as cool, calm as Dark does right now on camera. Just taking a nice little sip, scratching his hair. I mean, I can't do the scratching hair part, but like, yeah, what a comeback. Because got to say, that big Baneling landmine that he put down on that right side, taking out like 15 supply, and then the bit that we saw just below the camera, another like 10, 15 supply gone. That absolutely brought him back into the game.
Yeah, I really imagine that supply just still roaming around the map, avoiding those Banelings. Like, it just didn't go back to that area, and Dark's like, well, do I use them? Like, that's going to be really difficult to do against that many Marines. That was a very cool game. A bit reminiscent to the one that I had talked about, how hype it got, like 12 supply out of 10. But this time with like really actionable units, you know? Like it wasn't these stalemates with Lurker and Faster versus Ghost. It was just action all over the place. And the mutas, I mean, it took them a while. It took them a few upgrades, took them a few lives, but they really started to highlight how good Dark can be with them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the mutas absolutely kept him in the game. The Baneling usage with the bombs as well was really, really cool. I liked it when he got very scrappy, and I mean, we almost forgot about that Baneling bomb in the middle of the map as well, but this was the real cruncher here. And look at the supply. Oh, I thought we were going to carry on watching, but he was at 1909 supply, and that went down to 92 off camera here, but oh my goodness, this was a great TVZ.
Yeah, and you know what's so amazing about that? Like, I think we both, right, just kind of assumed that every Baneling was used, and that's why I was like, I don't know if you want that many burrowed Banelings, because usually you either use them all, and it's like, might be overkill, or the Terran scans as a habit. And, you know, as casters, I feel like we've done more than once been like, why do people scan? Like, there's obviously only so many burrowed Banelings. Like, you already got killed. Had he scans, that might have actually helped his chances as well. But, yeah, the supplies had already kind of started to plummet at that point. That was really sick. I feel like it's the only time I've ever seen a Zerg use half the burrowed Banelings there.
I mean, it was really cool. It was really cool. I liked a lot of both their play. And, you know, the series with Time versus Scarlet, that was Time, like, especially the second game, that was him coming back from a bad situation, right? You could tell that he was just out-microing Scarlet a lot of these fights. But Dark, like, the fact that he managed to fight in the way that he did, because it is actually a lot trickier than it looks like, where you're trying to flood the army and trying to use every unit as efficiently as you can, but he was really doing it. Like the burrow and stuff, I can't emphasize enough how much I like that play. And the mutas, it's not very often you see somebody go so fast into like super upgrades, like the 3-2, but it just made them so much stronger to actually take those direct fights, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I was actually worried about Dark Style for a while there, because it felt like the amount of aggression you're supposed to do to a Terran wasn't really happening a lot of that game, but then eventually it did start to be very much a suppressing Time, not able to let him breathe. And, well, the game played out. Dark takes the first victory, and now we move on to Oxide. In the bottom left, he is the blue Terran, Time.
And spawning over in the top right as our red Zerg, it is Dark.
It really does feel like that last series, Time Scarlet, it was like, okay, the last couple of minutes, Time definitely looked really good, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, that is really good TVZ. But then a lot of the rest of that series was just like, you know, Scarlet not really performing that well. So is Time really that great, or was it just Scarlet kind of throwing the game there? I feel like that last game, I'm just like, I want to change my prediction. Like this, if Time had looked like this, I would have been like 2-1 Time.
I was just thinking, like, Time was a big question mark for all of us as to how he was going to look coming into this tournament. He looked good against Scarlet, but it's a beautiful thing where you look like really damn good even when you lose. And I think a lot of that game, we didn't get to see a lot of these counterattacks do a lot of damage, because I know there was 1 or 2 counterattacks that came in and just swept everything, but he actually defended and deflected for a long time while also being aggressive in his control of the map as well with his army. That's a tough thing to do. Yeah, genuinely looking forward to see how this game goes. And this is a Terran-favored map in this matchup. So this is the one that Time, if he's looking to get on the board, this is how you do it.
I mean, now I'm a believer. You know, a lot of us voted Dark 2-0, but after that game, like, it's definitely not a sure feeling anymore. Even, I mean, it is a Terran-favored map. Time should be feeling like, I think happy with the last game in a way. Like, obviously, it really sucks to lose such a close game, but you're just like, I pretty much went toe-to-toe with Dark. Like, I could definitely do that again on a map like Oxide, but, of course, Dark, I don't know how eager he's going to be to play same style as that in many of his ZVTs, but especially on Oxide. That felt like perhaps a Romanicide or 2K special.
I'm very curious about what he's going to go with this game on Oxide, because I know that he does love his Rochi plays, not necessarily the all-in stuff, but Oxide is a trickier map. I know a lot of the European Zergs tend to like their Massling Bane play, because it's very, very defensive. People think it's greedy, but it's actually like one of the more strong standard styles to get yourself into like a later stage of the game. Also allows you to spend more money on the queens, getting that creep spread up and going, and Time here is going for the 3CC build, and yet again, but that's no longer something that we look at as like a greedy build.
No. I mean, maybe if you're like, you're versing Dark, like you can be really aggressive. Yeah, maybe it can be versus Dark, but no, I actually really like it. And let's see what he actually moves on from there. I mean, I'm thinking for Dark and for many Zergs out there, Oxide, it's not necessarily even the first couple of pushes that are really scary, although they are. That is also something that Oxide is good about. And we'll talk about those when they come. It's also the feeling of claustrophobia, basically, that happens after, like, the 4th base, where it just feels like a small map. There aren't many bases to take that the Terran can't push you very easily on. So we do tend to see them try and get, you know, maybe into the lurkers, into the actual cost-efficient types of compositions. They got to get there first, and that's very difficult.
Yeah, it's actually very tricky playing against Dark, because if you have an idea of what your opponent's going to do right from the get-go, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this, but with Dark, you literally have no idea what's going to come at you. So, like, going for the Banshee opening by time, I wonder if he's going to add Cloak with this. It could just be a safety Banshee. I'd imagine it's going to be Cloak. It's definitely a more safe opening. But yeah, you always have to worry about what he's doing, because you get to this mineral line, you start questioning yourselves on the go. It's like, is this guy roaching me from this point? You start thinking like, okay, I need to get a really good scout going on here.
Definitely respect that safety Banshee is really what I like to call it. When it doesn't get that Cloak, it can be a bit of a nuisance, you know, but it really can't do a whole lot of damage. Double Evolution Chambers. Dark setting up for a macro game, something that Time probably won't be able to see with the Queens patrolling against the Hellions. That is pretty late Cloak.
It definitely is pretty late Cloak. Huh. I mean, you could say a little bit mistimed. Usually you do start the Banshee quite a bit before, but I like what Dark's doing here. I think it is going to be the Mass Ling Bane approach, where you try and get map control straight away, those 2 very early Evos, not going for the fast scaling speed this game or the Spire, obviously, but seeing this amount of Hellions as well, that gives it away that Dark, or rather Time, is going for something of the Starport tech as opposed to the double barrack. So, yeah, and look, those spores coming down in ample time here as well for Dark.
I mean, his Cloak timing is a bit weird. I'm like thinking, is it nerves, or is it just a changed mind, or is it just actually part of his build? I mean,
the delayed 2 Banshee, if it does come in delayed and together, it can actually end up doing quite a bit, so maybe there was no rush for him. Yeah, it definitely could have been a little bit better timed for him, but right now, Dark must be thinking, oh, he does get a little glimpse of the Banshee here, and he is a good player, so he definitely will have spotted that, I think, but yeah, I must admit, Dark must have been wondering, like, what are you actually doing? Yeah. Because that's 6 Hellions. Is this some weird-ass build? But now he knows that it is a fairly normal one from Time.
I mean, maybe he's hoping that he would kind of expect the safety one, and is like, actually, I'm going to pair them both up together, which, yeah, can be done, even if you get Cloak a bit faster, but this might have been maybe even more optimized build. I wasn't really looking that closely at the minerals and the gas. But the double Cloaked Banshee kind of coming out of almost nowhere, he kind of got a glimpse of it, can be a bit harmful for these Queens, which already take a lot of damage. Fortunately, some Lings are there to stop the Hellions from getting a beautiful little run by, and more Lings are coming. With the Queens having been a bit caught off guard, I felt like that could have been something, but actually it turns to a bit of nothing as Time loses all of his Hellions and his 1 Banshee, leaving only 1 left over. Exactly a great trade.
That is immaculate for Dark. The way that he handled that and the transfusing and stuff, like, you know, his gameplay has really come a long way. I know Kevin will always make fun of me forever and ever, but his micro and stuff, like, he used to be this battle Zerg for me, but now he's become like a much more finesse Zerg and one that can do everything and anything. And that is a lot of hatcheries going down at once, by the way, like a few macro hatcheries in the main base. I see those on the little map there, and that's a large amount of Lings with 1-1 before the 1-1 and GG immediately.